Hi, I'm Cynthia, and my subject matter today is about child-free flights.
Hi, my name is Ray, and I'll be talking about gun and knife crime.
Hi, I'm Eugenie, and today I'm talking about public displays of affection.
Hi, my name's Aaron, and I'll be discussing whether or not Wembley Stadium was right to not light up with the Israeli flag.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Serwusu, and you are here with me again on IN2G, and we're going to have another conversation with some panel members that you know and some that you don't. So who are these panel members? Yes, who are they?
Hi, my name is Ray Patrick, and I am a chaplain.
Hi, I'm Eugenie Burton. I'm a fitness and lifestyle coach.
Hi, my name's Aaron. I'm a teaching assistant.
Fantastic. So I'm going to start off with you, Ray. What is your subject matter for today?
My subject matter today is something that is very relevant, and that is gun and knife crime.
Right. So what is your thoughts on it? So, I mean, it's been going on for many years, and people have been talking about it, but it doesn't seem to be going down or stopping.
Right.
What is actually going on? What's your views on what's actually going on with the knife crime?
Well,
is it London you're looking at, or
just the UK in general?
In general, okay.
So UK in general has seen a rise of by 19% on knife crime. Give an example. We are now at 48,000 knife crimes for the year 2022 March to 2023 March.
Wow.
48,000. Okay, let that sink in for a moment. And then think about those who are involved in knife crime. 70% are repeat offenders. Yeah? 30% are new. And then the startling figure is 43% are below the age of 17. Yeah. So that's where we are.
That's where we are at the moment.
That's where we are.
So, can I just ask you, I think that, this is my view, but I don't know what your thoughts are, in the sense that, don't you think we should catch these children, or they're called youth, much younger than actually waiting until they are in 13, 14, 15, involved in these kind of sort of thing, and then try to catch them and pull them out? Wouldn't it be a better way? You know, there's an old saying, prevention is better than cure. Yeah. So I'm more about preventativeness. So don't you think, so what is the issue that's causing this firstly, and how do we tackle it?
Good. Great question. Yes, the best way to deal with anything is to get it from young. We have to treat it from a trauma perspective. Hurt people. And so it must be treated from a trauma perspective. At the moment, we're treating symptoms. Right. Gun and knife crime is symptoms, and it's not the problem. And until we see it as a symptom, we won't deal with it where the cause is. And so I honestly believe that parenting, anger management, awareness, the environmental change of the home, single parenthood, men living up to their responsibilities. Those are some of the areas that we need to deal with, so that, and I honestly believe this, that we need to start doing this in high school, where children are not yet parents. So we're teaching PSHE and other things. We're now beginning to teach fatherhood, and we should teach parenting and these kinds of things, so that, and responsibility and making choices and all this stuff. Now, beyond that, between the ages of 1 through 7, we need to begin to deal with trauma issues. For example, a difficult pregnancy can cause trauma. Domestic abuse in the home, trauma. You know, dragging someone to a place where they don't want to go. It may even be church. Trauma. And then, so once you deal with the trauma between 1 and 7 or 1 and 10, then you're beginning to prepare the person for a decent life. If those are not dealt with, and if the person isn't in a safe place then you're going to end up having what we have on our streets. Because not only is the gun and knife crime an issue, but for particularly black boys or black men, suicide is a higher rate than the fatalities of knife crime.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we have shoplifting through the roof. And all these antisocial behaviors are, I believe, as a result of trauma not being dealt with at a young age, and then making them accountable and aware at teenage level. So now they've become monsters, basically, excuse my terminology, in society. And the only way we have learned to deal with it is to lock them up with other criminals to make them more criminals, or bad or criminals, or deeper criminals, and the cycle goes on. If you can kill a boy at the age of 15, your sentence will be less than 5 years, and even if you get a life sentence, it will probably be 8 years, and then the rest of the time you'll be on tag or come out or whatever it is. But that's the issue that we face. But I think the solution now for this generation is to stop as much as we can the symptoms, educate parents, begin in high school to fix certain things and to tackle trauma.
Wow. What do you think,
I think
Eugenie?
he's nailed it. Honestly. I mean, nodding. I think it does, I think it does start at the home, in the home. And the trauma thing is rife. I think that's a generational thing as well, because you're dealing with, as well, children having children, right? And young parents who haven't dealt with the trauma, may not even realise the trauma, because even something that's been out for only about 10 years is about the effect of certain things, like you said, on babies. And we think, they're a baby, they'll forget about it. But it's like, no, and they don't even know themselves why they're behaving the way they are. Right. But that's all about the trauma that they've experienced. And it could be a variety of things, even like from just abandonment, being, or as a child being sent to the Caribbean or Africa to live, and they're away from their parents. There's so many different things that can cause trauma. And like I said, that needs to be dealt with as soon as, sometimes it doesn't manifest itself until a little bit later on, but you never know when it will. And you just see that in the behavior, and that needs to be dealt with. But again, I agree in terms of dealing with children in secondary school, what they need to know is in terms of parenting, because speaking to my husband who deals with mentoring children, it's like, what do you want to be? And it was like different things. And one woman was like, I want to have a baby. One woman, girl, I want to have a baby. And it's like, if you actually really knew the responsibility that comes with being a parent, that you can't, leaving a baby crying, or, just how we treat children, which we just, parents treated us, we just think that's how you do it. But sometimes the effects of that, we don't even realise. And so I think that's something that needs to be told to these kids, because I think that would more likely put them off. And definitely dealing with trauma throughout. Families, really, I know, yes, there's different types of families, but, God's ideal for a family would then, I think that would hopefully then help with having young people who are a little bit more, let's say, together.
Yeah.
Right. Can I ask you a question, Eugenie? Because you brought up a very good point there about God's plan of a family. But there's a lot coming out now about those that are allegedly in God's plan kind of family, in church, and they actually are going through trauma. And so how do you speak, and they experience some of the things that these young people that are going through what they're going through and getting involved in things that they shouldn't be getting involved in. How do you what's your answer to that? That there is a God plan and they are in this mum-dad situation, but they're still having these things happening to them.
Well, I don't see it's just a matter of, two parents and, kids. It's still, there's still more to that in terms of your relationship with God and so on. So, and at the end of the day, once a child gets to a certain age, they are exposed to whatever goes on in school, right? And that's something that you kind of have no control over. All you can do is get that foundation. And I think that, yes, there is, not every Christian family is a healthy family, right? So I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about, God's plan, because obviously when the doors are closed, you don't know what's going on there. But I just think that that it is a standard, and you see so many young people who've actually changed their lives, and that's because of having and finding Jesus, having a relationship with Jesus, and turned their life around, and now helping other members of gangs and so on to actually, because I remember seeing it was a reel, and it's this guy saying, he was talking about the tragedy that happened a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that, what the answer is, it's yes, youth clubs, yes, or did you see that?
I played it on my show.
Right, but the real answer is God. It's about, that's really, it's going to give you that love for others, that love for yourself as well. And, there's a old song that says Jesus is the answer. Yeah. And I honestly believe that is the case.
Why? What do you think, Aaron?
I was going to say, in my opinion, there's probably two things that are key here. One is to do with the family itself. Statistically, children that come from two-parent households are several times less likely to be involved in dysfunction, things like knife crime, gangs, etc., etc. But you also find, crucially, that single father households have very similar statistics to two-parent households. So there must be something that is crucial about specifically a male presence in the household that kind of steers them in the right direction. It's not to say that women aren't strong, I understand that, but there must be something about masculinity that kind of helps keep kids on the right path. And it's not to degrade women or anything like that, just to emphasize, I'm not misogynist or anything, I'm just saying, there's another side to it, and I don't know, I don't want to perpetuate harmful black stereotypes, but is there a racial element to it as well, where sometimes I look at certain elements, not all, but certain elements of black culture that I don't necessarily enjoy. I don't necessarily, so for example, some of the music that we listen to, certain parts of like hip hop or rap, or like certain parts of Caribbean music, it's misogynist. It's all to do with like how many people can we have sex with in one night. There's a guy called, what's his name, Vibes Cartel, yeah? And he had a song, I don't want to get too explicit, but he wrote a song called Virginity. And it was really sexually explicit. And so the whole, sometimes what we listen to and what we feed ourselves with kind of contributes to that culture. Now I'm not trying to compare black people to any other culture. And it's not to say that it's necessarily, knife crime is literally a black issue. I'm not saying that, because it affects everybody. But as black people, I'm asking, is there stuff that we can do without blaming racism or classism or anything like that? Is there something that we can do as black people to kind of almost help ourselves? So what we listen to, what we feed ourselves, rubbish goes in, rubbish comes out. That's what my mum says.
I'm gonna come back to you on that. So the data that's out there is that the majority of the black music that you, in terms of black culture music, it's not majority of it is bought not by the black community.
Correct.
Actually, the money that is spent is now $1 billion or £1 billion industry, but the actual money that comes in is not from the black community. So how is it that, so from that perspective, on the data, if a different type of community are consuming something that is detrimental, but they're not acting out in that way, what is your thoughts on that?
Because there's an actress, I can't remember what her name is. She's a famous actress, and she says that she would not have her own children watch what she produces to other people's children. So there's a bit of hypocrisy there. It's okay for you to produce this kind of content that you know is harmful to other people's kids, but when it comes to your own kids, Nah, I don't really think so. So you have to ask yourself, why do you produce that content? It gets political after a while. I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I don't want to make any claims. But it does get really political. It gets kind of racial and stuff. Again, I don't want to speculate, so I don't know anything, so I'm not going to speculate, but it does get political.
Yeah, I mean, the things that you brought up are very good points. But I was always when I looked at the data, when the data was out there, you know, because that was one of the arguments I've heard quite a few from people saying, oh, well, we consume things that are not appropriate, and hence why that kind of conduct comes about. However, the consumers are actually not the actual community. That is the percentage is like 80% or so that are not from our community, but they're not reacting that way. And the other thing is that another thing is that a lot of the artists that do promote certain things, they may say go out there and do this and do that, but they're married. They you know. So it's like not just throwing one's name out there. You've got Beyonce, Cardi B, all these people that are out there. They are married and they've got 2 kids and they've got 3 kids or whatever, and they are living a married life. But their persona, that's what they call it, on stage, is that
ratchet.
Perpetuates.
Ratchet.
Yeah.
We call it what it is. It's ratchet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so people are buying into that, and it's like, well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they say, because you're living a specific life and keeping your life intact in a certain way. And, you know, prime example, you know, Beyonce and Jay-Z, the issue with Lemonade and him cheating on her, she brought that out, but she wasn't happy about it. But yet songs can come out that pushes women and men to encourage them to go down that lifestyle. So I think it's a little...
But that's what I'm saying, come back to the family issue again, which is why 80% of people that consume this stuff is not black. You have to ask ourselves, what are these communities doing that kind of keep their children kind of in check? Are they... I mean, I'm a black person, maybe I'm a black person, so I don't know how maybe a white family might think of it or an Asian family might think about it. But there is a certain... I do get a sense there's more accountability with those communities.
More accountability.
I do.
When you say what do you mean?
I mean in terms of, not necessarily, I don't want to use the word shame, but there is a clear idea in their minds as to who they are and who they're supposed to be as they get older and what's responsible of them. Whereas it's hard to explain.
No, you know, Aaron, I actually like the word shame. I think there is something to be said about shame, and I don't mean it shame in a derogative way. It's a dignity.
Right.
To me, it brings about a form of dignity that you're trying to say, that you should have this dignity about yourself and about who you are. So, which kind of almost like a fence that stops you. But
I also say shame because shame is a natural consequence of wrongdoing. You cannot have shame without stigma, because shame is a direct consequence of stigma. So there has to be a sense of accountability and a sense of wrongdoing that comes with that. And that can be quite unpleasant at times. So it kind of goes, I hear what you're saying and I agree with you, but it kind of goes beyond dignity, because dignity is just more to do with like who you are and a sense of personal pride. Shame is when you say, I've done something wrong, how do I fix it? So yeah, it's a different dynamic.
Yeah, I think one of the things, a couple of things that we need to be aware of is the gun and knife crime issue. I don't believe is a black issue.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because when it comes to education, the guys that are involved in crime now are actually at the lowest rate when it comes to educational pursuits and GCSEs and other things. Actually, white males, young white males are now following that trend. Yeah. And then I think you have, so that means that the homes that were appearingly stable are now being fragmented. And I think that that's something to consider. The other thing we need to consider is that where do these knives and guns come from? Because the reality is, to buy a gun, the type of guns, that the submachine guns and other things that the kids are now walking around with, is a lot of money. So then you ask the question, where do the guns come from? How do they come into our communities? You know, and how can they afford it? Because a lot of them are single parent out individuals. So that lets you begin now to think to yourself, is this political? Is there a reason for this? And in poverty is the other part of this that plays a massive part, because even your white males and black males, most of the households that get involved in this are not from affluent backgrounds. So poverty plays a massive part in this. So someone knows how to get the guns in, someone knows who to give it to, someone knows how to stir up what needs to be stirred up so that the drama and the trauma can take place. And the system goes on, and the spiral goes on. I did some research just recently on how guns get into our community. A lot of them are ex-military. A lot of them are ex-police. Yeah. These are not brought in from Africa with us in our bags. No. This is coming from people who literally initially had license to bring them in. And remember, you can find an artillery in someone's house of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guns, a zombie knife. Zombie knives are not things you buy in stores, and they're not cheap. Swords, ceramic swords. Well, machetes, we can get them a dime a dozen. But I'm talking about those big swords that a guy said he was walking across the bridge in Shepherd's Bush, and 2 guys were coming towards him with swords. He didn't think anything of it because he had done them nothing. Then he realized they were coming towards him.
Wow.
So he runs back over the thing, runs down the stairs, and he's now in East Acton, broad daylight. And he said, Ray, I had to run into someone's house that I didn't know because they started to slash the swords and they were cutting the hedges clean. And he told the person, so the person allowed him to come in and close the door, and they called the police. And then when they heard him, calling the police inside, the guys ran away with the swords. These swords are not swords you will find in a corner store. Someone has given these boys or lent them or sold them for next to nothing. And when you do that, you now enthuse the community. Community becomes very much a dangerous place to be in. So I don't think these are happenstances. I think that these are in some ways deliberate.
Do you know what? And I can add to that, because there was a discussion that in Manchester and Scotland they had a high level of knife crime, but it wasn't in the majority black community, because in those areas there isn't that much in terms of percentage, but it was with the white males, and how that was handled was it's completely different from the way that they've handled London. And they've seen a complete drop in those areas because they took a holistic view of that situation. And I think because of that, I think that there is some kind of political agenda going on, because why would you deal with a similar issue in another part of in two different ways? So why are you doing more stops and searches and so forth, when actually you didn't do that when it was in Scotland, all in Manchester? And you've seen the results. Data don't lie, numbers don't lie. If it's going down, they did a combination of things. I think they looked at it from a parental point of view. They looked at that. They looked at poverty in terms of income, supporting them financially. There's a lot of the things that
and they opened up youth clubs, reopened youth clubs. They did all kinds of things, initiatives for boys. The numbers have dropped drastically. Because Glasgow used to have the worst gang. They had more gangs than London. But now that those numbers are going down, they're still relatively high, but they are going down. And also the tie to drug abuse
was a big one.
And so they started the recovery homes where people could literally come up to the place, ask for help without being arrested. And so those kinds of things began to help. And I'm saying that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a collaboration. It's going to take a hatred for the crime, and we can no longer sit back and say that the war in the Middle East is our issue, or the war in Ukraine is our issue. Our issue is the war on our streets, because our boys are being killed, and our girls are being killed, and in 1 week, 3 weeks ago, we had 5 of them killed. 3 of which I know, and I know their families, and it was just sad. It was absolutely sad. And don't forget that the church is not absent from this. We are involved. These individuals that have been killed and the killers are normally tied to someone's church or congregation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to, there's a saying that says that if we as a community, and it's everybody, as a human race, do not look after our most vulnerable, then and help those parents that don't want to parent the children, or can't, then those children are going to burn the village to keep themselves warm. So, on that note, Eugenia, I'm going to let you have your.
Okay, so I saw a video the other day of a father and his grown adult son, and the son was just loving on his father, and he was just like hugging him, kissing him. Dad's just there like taking it, and it was just so sweet. But then in the comments there was a little bit of a division there. And the other thing was several years ago now, I watched something on TV, and a boy who was in secondary school, his mum took him into school, right? And as they're saying goodbye, she's hugging him, kissing him, saying, "I love you too, Mum, all right, bye, have a good day." And then some of the boys there were trying to make fun of your mum, and he's like, "What, don't you love your mum?" And then that was it, because he couldn't say anything, because obviously he did. And so I want to talk about public displays of affection. Now, I'm thinking that it's okay, but then I remember having a boyfriend who didn't want to hold my hand in public, right? And it didn't make sense to me, but it's like, okay, you didn't last long. And then and then now with my husband, who just recently in church, I can't remember exactly what happened, but we actually ended up like, hugging and kissing on the cheek. And my friend was sort of like, "Get a room." And
I'm with your friend.
and I'm just like, okay, so here's my thing. My thing is, are we putting people that you don't know, strangers or the public, in front of your own feelings and the way that you are with your family, your parents or your children, not children but adult children, and also with your spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like having a snog in public, but I'm saying, is there anything wrong with it? Why do we not like it, or some people do not like it and do not want to do it?
To be blunt with you, some of them is bitter and single.
Some people
are just bitter and single. That's what I think. And misery enjoys company. That's what I think. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, I think. I mean, look, there's different kind of relationships, because I wouldn't necessarily give if I was dating a girl, I wouldn't necessarily like be properly kissing her and stuff in front of my parents or at church or something, until there's time and a place for everything. But I think generally speaking, it depends on the individual. Some people tend to be a bit more private. Like me, I'm more private. I'm more of an introvert. So the most I'll give you in public is a kiss on the lips, and then I'll maybe hold your hand, and that will be it, and there'll be nothing more. Behind closed doors, not that I'm doing anything, but behind the closed doors, not I'm doing anything. I'm just saying. I'm not sitting there. Behind closed doors, then we can, it's privacy. But some people are just more discreet. It also depends upon the kind of relationship that you have and how old you are, because there's more than one kind of love, and there's some love that seems to be more, well, not seems to be, there's some love that is more appropriate to express in certain conditions, in certain scenarios than others. So I can hug my mum, for example, at like church or like at a graduation or something like that, but not in other situations. Do you know what I mean? Same with a partner or a friend or something like that. So it depends on the kind of person that you are, really, and who you are. You have to talk to your partner about that, really.
Okay. What about you, Ray?
Is this watershed time? What time is this going to be aired?
Yes, just keeping it real. It's real talk.
Okay.
Real talk.
I just take it, man, because you're going down a slippery road right here. I mean, I think definitely public displays of affection is important, and I think it's good for the younger generation to see adults being able to show affection, because a lot of us grew up in homes where there wasn't that. I never saw my mum and dad hold hands, never saw them kiss, never saw any of that. So it was difficult for me when I started dating to even consider that, because it's something I'd never seen. And if I did want to do it, I'd do it all wrong. You know what I mean?
Because you didn't know how to.
Because I didn't know how to do it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I needed to get a room. You know what I mean? But I did it all wrong because I ain't got a clue how to hold back, how to have boundaries, how to have any of those things. So it's a difficult thing when you don't know how. I do believe that there are certain things that, and like Erin says, you have to have that discussion one with another. You can't say that I enjoy kissing in public and expect the next person to enjoy that. So you need to have that conversation so that you both are aware of what you both like. And you need to consider where you are, what is appropriate. I don't want to be up there preaching a sermon and looking down and seeing folk, doing their thing, snogging in the pew, because I may just change my emphasis and start preaching at them. You know what I mean? Because it's a God moment. It ain't your moment. Give it to God. You know what I mean? And so I just think there are boundaries that need to be set in public places, and even something very small, as if you're just gazing into each other's eyes all the way through the program in church.
Well, you think there's something wrong with that?
There's a problem with that. Where's your mind? Is it on God? Are you really gazing into Jesus' face?
What about when people say God
face to face with Christ my Savior? Really?
Yeah, but Ray, what about when people say God is love and love is
God?
God?
Gaze into God's eyes. Yeah, because the things of earth grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. So gaze into His eyes. You know what I mean? Maybe your bills may go down. You know what I mean? But so I just think that there's certain things you can do. And also, if someone isn't comfortable with something, let not be a deal breaker. That shouldn't be a deal breaker.
You don't think it should be a deal breaker?
No. If someone isn't comfortable with holding hands, they may grow up like I grew up.
Right.
And not see that and feel awkward. So it's going to take a minute to get into that. And
if
again,
at all.
if at all. And it may take a couple of years of dating before the person realizes that they can feel that way. So I think it's not one size fits all. I think people have different ways of.
Eugenie, you want to say you're bursting?
Yeah, things. Couple of things.
Yeah, no problem.
So first of all, having this discussion, it all sounds all lovely, but I'm kind of here thinking, well, do you really need to have a discussion on what we're gonna do? Because I see it coming from something that is just very natural and very, just want to like hold your hand or put my hands on your leg in church, but still focused, right? Or
He is focused. He ain't focused. He may be focused, but not on the Lord.
But I'm talking from experience. It just feels like a natural thing to do. We didn't have a discussion. It was just sort of like, I love him, he loves me, and we walk along, and then suddenly find ourselves holding hands. So it's not anything that I think it needs to be discussed. I think it's just like how you are, and I hear you about holding hands, and you might not be used to that and all of this kind of stuff. But then it's looking at the reasons why. But then it's kind of like that just may be him or her. they just no, not
Yeah.
doing that in public. So why wait to get them to, to get to a place where maybe they may not think that. And, especially if we're talking about love languages as well, it may be a deal breaker, because why would you want to be with somebody who's not free with their affection? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying inappropriate stuff. I'm not saying let's not, not be aware of where you are.
I just think that it's a relative thing, because if I say public displays of affection, to me that would mean something very different to the next man.
Yes.
And so that's why I feel that the discussion and the discussion may be at that moment where you feel like you want to hold hands, and you may hold his hand, and he may, are you okay with this?
Oh, like that?
Yeah, just asking the question.
Oh,
Just asking the question.
Is that ruin the moment though?
No, that's the point. The point is
It's
the moment is already ruined.
What do you mean?
Because the person doesn't want to do it, or doesn't feel comfortable. But what it is one side saying, "I want to do it."
So this is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. No,
Oh, so you're saying that it's breaching
I
someone's
think
boundaries.
I think it was, I mean, I've dated enough to know that if I'm about to hold a girl's hand, especially in this climate, I better get consent.
He's right.
Wow.
He's right, especially as guys.
I better get consent, because I'm not going to jail, and I don't want no phone call saying I did something wrong 10 years down the road and ended up. So, Brendon, what I got to do before I hold your hand is that, are you okay with this?
Right. So that's
Forget the moment. I ain't going to jail. You know what I mean? And I'm getting my reputation. I'm tarnished because I didn't ask the question, and somebody else comes out with Me Too down the road, and they start saying, "Oh yeah, anyone that holds hands without consent," and they, Ray did that to me. Brendon, we got drama. So I'm asking the question, and I'm asking the question more than once,
just to make sure.
just to make sure. And I may even have a tape recorder on, just in case it comes back up 10 years down the road.
So you can prove it.
So I can prove it.
So
You know what I mean? It's someone called Russell. Who, Brand? Sorry.
So Alan, is that the case? Is that how it is?
Yeah, for guys, you have to be kind of careful nowadays. Because, I think there's two elements to it. I think with Me Too, it did good things and bad things. Good things in that it exposed that a lot of men in power are kind of exploiting their position.
Correct.
That's what it did right. What it did wrong is kind of created this kind of almost sterile environment now, where I feel like I have to be on my toes, and not necessarily because I want to do, not because I'm scared to getting caught doing the wrong thing. It's just that it's more to protect myself. It goes beyond relationships. Like for example, at I work in a school, they tell you things now. Like for example, do not be alone with a student in a classroom. Leave the door open. Things like that. It's about protecting yourself as well. And obviously, I understand that women who have been raped and sexually assaulted far outweigh men that have been falsely accused of these things. But it still happens to guys. And as a consequence of that, you have to be kind of really careful. And so what happens is it does two things. One is that it kind of makes, especially young boys growing up, kind of question their masculinity, because they don't know how to behave around women, because how to behave around women is a bit different from how my dad was taught to raise around women. And so what one woman might find to be romantic, another woman might find to be harassment. The difference between harassment and a phone call to HR could be a six-pack for all I know.
100%.
You said that.
Wow.
That is the question.
Yeah.
You see, and this is the.
You have to be careful.
You have to be really careful. I didn't even, to be honest with you guys, I did not consider that. Did you think of that, Eugenie?
Absolutely not. And
Because she's interested in the little snog in the church. Sorry.
Because no, not at all. And it's quite sad, really, because that guys have to think so deeply, you know what I mean, and quickly, and I just think that's really sad.
But it is what it is, really.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
But then I also wonder about what is going on with these women.
Well, it's the thing is, there is something to be said about what Ray said. Myself and my husband, we love to show affection in the house because we want our children to, we're not like out here,
Whatever.
But it's like, and our son, both our sons, they love it. They actually come over to get
To
to join
great,
in.
Yeah.
So
wonderful.
Yeah.
they both
Wonderful.
they both run to get into and get
Yeah.
in between. Like, yeah, I want to be part of this
Yes.
this love fest because
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And for us, we can see the impact that it has on them. And everyone says that they're really lovely kids. They're really respectful. You know, when they go, like the youngest one started nursery, and he calls, you know, the teachers auntie so and so, and they're like really kind of like, they said, what are you doing? And the only thing I can say is that, yes, I spend time with him. We spend time with him. I do the work, but I think just seeing the love and that consistency makes a difference. So for me, I have to say, it's really sad to hear that you men have to, I understand that the Me Too movement needs to happen and for the reason that it did. But I think it's really sad that you guys have to almost like, you're losing the moment. Like
you can lose the moment, but you'll still be a free man. You risk the moment, you can go to jail.
Yeah, you risk it. Yeah.
You don't have time for this
And what
anymore.
we're finding now, and you know, and dating is a strange place now, because you know, I talk to the guys all the time, particularly guys at high school and others, and it's almost a fear factor.
to actually go out and date.
To go out and date.
Because of the Me Too movement.
Right. Not only then, but just because of the
generally,
climate where
way
we
it
are
is.
right now,
When you say climate-
because the consent thing is massive. I see PHSE, I teach it at school, and the biggest module is consent, the biggest module.
Right.
And so I got to tell the boys, you can't even hug a girl
Unless she says yes.
unless you have to ask before you hug her, before you hold her hand. You know, you cannot.
Not even the Sabbath friendly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We do it
holy
in
hug.
we do it in church. But the reality is, if church were to follow the safeguarding ideas of the society, then a lot of us are breaching the thing because personal space is being breached.
And look at that, right?
Yeah, go on.
So look at that. So, you know, church is supposed to be a family, right? And part of that is about going around and hugging people, how you doing, happy Sabbath, all of this kind of stuff. If you take that away, what are we left with?
Do you know what I'm even thinking, Eugene? There's a song that we have in church that says, you know, get up, smile, or greet somebody.
Jesus' name.
So that means you wouldn't do that
You
song,
better
no?
fist bump.
Nowadays,
You better fist
let us greet somebody with consent in Jesus' name. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Like, for example, it goes deeper than dating. Sometimes it's not even about dating. It's about being around women full stop. Like, I know guys, for example, that don't, like, in the nighttime, for example, if they see a woman coming towards them, they will cross the road to avoid the woman. Or there'll be times when a woman is in the gym and she's struggling with something and a guy says, nope. So when a woman is in danger, because that fear, that kind of climate where I might be accused of this, a guy's going to say, well, you know, it's not worth my freedom, so she can look after herself. And to an extent, respectfully, that is what a lot of women and feminists ask for, #equality. So that's what you want. I mean, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was in Canada, in Toronto, and a lady had collapsed at the bus stop. I was driving by. I actually stopped looking for directions, and the lady collapsed. So all the people around her weren't doing nothing. Okay, so I go over to her. I think she's having a cardiac arrest. I think she's having a heart attack. That's my thought. I don't know anything medical. So guess what I do? I ask where the nurse hospital is. They tell me it's down the road, not far, about 1.5 miles. I said, okay. I put the woman in my car and I drive her to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, they take her straight in. She's having a heart attack, basically. Husband comes and thanks me for saving his wife's life. I mean, proper. I mean, he just said, I don't know how much money you need, whatever. You got here right in time. She's gonna survive. Great. The nurse tells me, if I see that happening again, don't do that. Because it's a woman and you're a man and you could be blamed for stuff. It's better you call the paramedics. That's what the nurse told me.
But she might have died.
By that time, she would have died.
That's what I'm saying. But the nurse was telling me, if I want to safeguard myself, that's what I need to
That's how
avoid.
serious it gets. You have to
So
choose.
the story of the Good Samaritan in this day and
It
age.
don't, man on man and woman and woman. Yes. That's the Good Samaritan story in a nutshell.
But can I just come back then to say, again, what are we teaching our girls and women in terms of, you know, because some of these things are going to, because you're fearing that, not because you're going to try something and then they're going to, right? It's just because of fear that they might. So it's like, why might they? That's what I'm saying. Why might they say something?
You know what I was gonna say? Like, I watched a video today. It's about this young woman, and she was at this place in Tottenham called Bruce Grove Station. And now the man approaching her and you're saying things like, you know, really intimidating her, give me your number, things like that. And he had, I don't know if he had a weapon on him, but he was really intimidated by it. You can hear the fear in her voice. So, but women do have license to be scared of men to a certain extent. Of course they do. So the two, it's kind of, you know, it's
but I'm not even talking about being scared, right? That's one thing. I'm talking about to a point where you would say something, you'd make something up, or you say, oh, ow, you just sexually abused me because you know what I mean? And it's that kind of culture where it's like, what is that? Why would you do that? And even the false allegations when you know you're lying.
I was gonna say maybe it links to kind of like more of a political thing where a lot of girls are taught, like, in regards to abortion, like my body, my choice. So there's when it comes to those things, there's an overarching sense of, I don't want to use the word narcissism, but it's like it's all about me. Where it's like, when it comes to abortion and things like that, that's a different story, I understand that. But it goes beyond that, it's now all about me. So there have been stories I've heard where a man and a woman have had a consensual sex. I've heard stories where the woman regrets it and accuses him of rape. I've heard stories where during sex she's regretting it and she tells him to stop. And he stops, goes away, she regrets it, she accuses him of rape. People have had their whole livelihoods taken away because of this kind of stuff.
Stories where it's because they've broken up with the person and they're no longer with that person, so the woman feels, you know, scorned. And it's not even, sometimes it's not even marriage, it's actually, you know, girlfriend and boyfriend situation, and they are upset. So they then say, well, you know, when that last night or the night before, it wasn't consensual. So I think there's all of that stuff that goes on. But I think, but is it linking back to women that are in trauma as well?
It could be trauma. It could be trauma.
Yeah.
It could be trauma. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example. The MP who's talking to her colleague, he puts his hand on her leg. Outcry. Don't touch my leg. But she doesn't say nothing until he's accused of two other things. And then she comes up and says, well, this happened to me and such a time with him.
Yeah, but then...
And now you're in a situation where...
people are now going to all come out the
closet. Yeah.
Yeah, but then... Yeah, don't touch my leg.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I agree, 100%. Don't touch my leg.
Then you have to understand as well, from a woman's point of view, things happen all the time, and you don't say anything. Not because you kind of can doubt yourself sometimes, like, did that really happen? Or it's like you don't know what to do, but then later on you think, I should have.
Yeah, which is why you have the whole opening of the inquiry so people can come forward. I understand that. Yeah. But I'm saying that is where the men are because of situations like that.
Wow.
And I'm not saying the situations were wrong or right. I'm just saying because of situations like that. And that we're in a culture now where everyone is prosecuting each other. So in other words, the kids at school, we now have to post the child line thing as a safeguard issue. And so kids are calling parents out because they don't like their treatment at home. And so they call in child line, social services around there in a minute, child is taken away. So we have all of that culture that's now, you know, moving around. And we call it awareness. We're becoming more aware, so this stuff is becoming more prevalent, or not more prevalent, people are reporting it more because of awareness. But I think we're living in a fair culture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, on that one, thank you, Ray, for that. And guys, Aaron, what's your subject matter?
Okay, so my one's a bit more political. So obviously you guys know in the last couple of weeks, the war's kicked off between Israel and Palestine again. Wembley Stadium decided not to light up in Israel's colours as a sign of solidarity. And there's been a huge, massive backlash from British Jewish people and other people who support the Jewish community as to why that is. So it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on it. Do you think they were right or wrong to do it? Not do it, I mean.
Do you know what? I've looked at the history of the conflict over there, and for me, I think that it's about humanities is the most important. I've always said that from the beginning. Humanity is the key to me, is that we have to live together and we have to work together and love each other. And I think that if you are going to treat another human being, whether it be black, white, got money, hasn't got money, in a wrong way, I'm going to have an issue with it. Because I look at, number one, we are human first before we're Christian or anything else. That's what we are. And I think that's what needs to be our focus. So I personally think that, yes, to show support, because I think the Palestinians felt that they haven't been supported, or they haven't been, that their voice haven't been heard. And based on what was being said and what was going on and what has been going on for 7 to 5 years, it was almost like a, we're going to stand up for something, because this is not nothing. To be fair, this isn't really new in terms of what has been going on in Palestine. People have been talking about this. Many politicians, there's an Irish MP that has been very vocal about what's been going on in Israel and how, they call it an apartheid state. Even Nelson Mandela made a quote saying that if South Africa cannot rest, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, that we cannot rest until Palestine is free also. And his grandson recently, I think a couple of days ago, was also echoed that same quote about we as South Africans cannot rest until Palestine is free. So there is definitely something to be said, and we need to show some form, some way, when a group of human beings are being not treated in the right way. That's just my view.
I mean, politically, without saying my opinion on it, politically the UK officially as a state is backing Israel.
Yes.
And so it would make sense, therefore, that their national stadium would light up in support of that. I'm not saying that as an individual you can have your own opinion on Israel, Palestine, whatever side you're on, but as a state, we're pro-Israel.
Yeah, but the arrow, you're saying the state, so that's the state that is pro-Israel. But do you think that the state can't be have their opinion, and we don't have to? Because would you not consider us being like sheeples because we have our own mind? Just because the state, and also if I had a business, for example, if I had a business and I owned Wembley Stadium, and I was maybe an Arab descendant, and that's where my line, that's how I made my money. I'm wealthy because of that community, for example, and that's where my lineage is. And I own Wembley Stadium. I won't be supporting the state because it's not the state that has brought me to where I am, that has supported me. And so I'm going to support who, number one, look at the facts and make my own decisions. Because at the end of the day, Wembley Stadium is also business. That's the bottom line. And we don't know who the supporters and who's actually been funding it.
I want to say, now I'm in agreement with you as far as the life. Every life is important. The conflict is the conflict, but however, people should be treated correctly. There is, I hate to say it, but there is rules in war.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
That should be followed.
That's right. Even in the Bible, it's very clear.
So I get that. However, what we have done is, in this country, is set a precedent. And that is that the Ukraine war was going on. We lit up the arch for the Ukrainians and not for the Russians. We were very clear.
Right.
Okay? So if we as a country back Israel, okay, which I'm not either way for, I'm just on human life. But as a country, if that's what we're backing, then the arch should have been lit up, because we've already set the precedent of whoever we back, we're going to light up the arch for. We did the same thing with Turkey.
That's what the British Jewish guy. Because they're saying
we've done it.
Because they're saying it's not really enough. So if Wembley Stadium and the FA had the balls to come out and say we're going to support Ukraine, we're going to support France and Turkey in terrorist attacks,
right?
NHS, breast cancer, LGBT, whatever it is. Where's that same energy for Israel?
No, because the thing is, I think the reason why I can say to you that, yes, but I think they are permitted. If you think about it, just because Wembley Stadium is not owned by the state. Wembley Stadium is not owned. It's owned by somebody or a group of people, right? So it's not owned by the state. It's not like this. It's like a.
It's owned by the state, but it's run by the FA, which means there's to a certain degree there is some level of state backing. So it's not totally privately.
So the state pays the FA.
No, we don't. To be fair, I've not done enough research, but I know that it's not. I think it's equivalent to when they changed the BP or the trains, where they say, right, it's still a state function where you get on the train, it's in the UK and it takes you where, but it's owned by shareholders and it's owned by people that are functioning in that way. So my thing is that they may follow, because maybe when they did their research, they felt that Ukraine, it was in line, but they looked at the situation between Israel and Palestine. And I think that it's good and proper for people and organisations to be able to stand up onto their own conscience.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. That is not good enough, because like Ray said, when you decide to, this is when, for example, you have like politics and business in the last couple of years. You have politics and business kind of blending together, where they're one and the same, where customers and consumers are demanding more from their things. An example of this, for example, Ben and Jerry, they're now openly supporting Black Lives Matter. Whatever you think about the group, that's what they're supporting now. So they're kind of the same. So when you take that precedent, when you say, I'm going to support this cause, whatever it is, right? There's always going to be a group of people that are going to feel left out. So for a British Jewish person, for them to say, I'm going to support the Ukraine war, or I'm going to light the flag for LGBT stuff, but not for us, with all due respect, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You've already set the precedent by saying, we're going to light up the stadium in every single colour we can find. LGBT pride, breast cancer is pink, NHS, Ukraine war, Turkey, France, terrorist attack, whatever it is. You take the precedent, you are now saying, we as a nation, a footballing nation, as a community, support this community. So therefore, if you choose not to do it, it's like they're saying, okay, so we're going to go and support Ukraine, yeah, no problem. We're going to go support LGBT rights, yeah, no problem. But when Israelis are being killed in their thousands, I don't know about that. So they might think that they're being treated as second-class citizens, and they'll interpret that as anti-Semitism. It's not enough to say nothing. You've taken a side. You said, we support Ukraine, we support Black Lives Matter, we support LGBT rights, we support Turkey and France and terrorists. So you've taken a side. To not take a side is also to take a side, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, and I get what you're saying, but I do think that just because what you're saying is that I can understand the hypocrisy if it's like Ben and Jerry said, okay, we're going to support Black Lives Matter, and then it went and supported a white supremacist organisation. In that context, I can understand that the hypocrisy in that. But I don't see it in the same way with something like what you're saying, because I feel like it's still not. They've decided to go by. Maybe they're conscious of, they've done their research or whatever it may be, they've not followed down the path of the government. And I think that the government should be challenged with a big organisation or big, like an FA, to be able to say, you know what, just because you said this, we're not just going to follow whatever you say and just follow what you're doing. They may have followed it in Ukraine or, like you said, Turkey, but I still think that there should be some form of democracy where people can still say, no, yeah, I did that with these, but actually I don't agree.
But that's the whole point. But that's kind of the whole point of what I'm saying. I'm sorry to cut you here, but that's the whole point, because it's like there are going to be people on two sides, right? There are people who, in this case, you're saying that there are people who are pro-Israel and pro-Palestine, and that will cause them to think twice about things. In the same way that they lit up the arch for Ukraine, do you not think there are people in this country who are pro-Russia? Do you think there are people who are not, who are anti-LGBT rights?
No, but I don't think, for me, I don't think being pro-Palestine in terms of the situation that's going on here means you're against Israel. I don't actually see it in that context. Okay. I'm pro-humanity. I'm pro us treating each other with the way that we're supposed to be treated, with respect. Whatever we believe in, we've got to stand up and say that's what we, and actually show it, and not just talk it, and just read it in our churches and our buildings. We've got to actually show it.
I agree
so
with
that's
you,
when.
But they didn't do that. That's the point.
Sorry, Eugene. I was going to give you speak. I don't want to keep.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me just say, I've been trying to research this Israel-Palestine thing, and I still don't get it. But I do think that. I think that every business, regardless of what they might have done before, that they can do whatever they want. If they choose not to do something, I think that's right. They have that choice, as we all do. So sometimes, and I think this is it, sometimes we like to cancel people or cancel things because they haven't done or they haven't spoken up or whatever, but at the same time, they have a choice. So you might be right, it might be, well, you know, the people that are putting money into it, and it's like, you know what, we can't upset these people. But I'm just like,
I mean,
our expectations of something like Wembley, you know, and the Arch, and because they've done it for all of these things, do they really have to do it for everything?
Well, I mean, the answer to that question is yes, if I'm being frank with you, because if you decide to insert yourself into the political arena and you decide to pick sides, remember, football is not just, it's a business, yes, but it's also a sense of, it's a community. So they have a bigger responsibility than just making money. So whatever they decide to take, it's going to reflect as to what football watchers believe as a whole. So in their case, they lit up the stadium in Ukraine's colours. So their status quo, if you want, is that they are pro-Ukraine and that they're against Russia, and that's cool. But then, on the other hand, people are going to interpret this and saying, well, you know, you're choosing not to say anything. And some people
they have
would
a
say,
right to do that, though,
and that's fine. But then, why didn't they do it for all the other things?
Well,
what makes this situation so unique that they couldn't say anything about this one as opposed to the other ones? What is it about Israel and Palestine that makes this situation so hostile, so controversial, that they said to themselves, you know what, we're not going to do it? What makes Israel different from Ukraine or LGBT stuff or any other political movement?
Well, I think first of all, when you're talking about Ukraine and Russia, I think the majority were in support of Ukraine, and you have like this huge country of Russia coming in and invading Ukraine, which they've been threatening them for many years. I think and I think that's something which we were all, except for pro-Russians, right? Were like, you know, disgusted with. At the same time, we're disgusted with the government because what they're offering the Ukrainians was not what they're offering the Syrians, right? But so and even with LGBT, we may not agree with that, but at the end of the day, the whole thing now is, well, they need to have their equality, right? So nobody's really, well, maybe people will, but you know, it's just something that it's easy, and it's like, yeah, we can support that.
That's my point, and it's easy because that's what the status quo is. But generally speaking, when it comes to organizations and individuals, I don't trust individuals, organizations that don't have some kind of sacrifice behind it, because these things are too easy. Yeah, okay, easy to support Ukraine, no problem, LGBT right, no problem. But when it actually comes down to something like this, which side are you on? Because to say nothing is to say something. It's not good enough.
And I get that. Sorry, Ray, because I do think even with the Russian thing, where the Ukraine, Russia, like you said about it's been happening, but I think when you delve into the actual deepness of Russia and Ukraine, you see that Russia, there's a different kind of story. So that's another picture that I would encourage anyone to do research, because it's not always, like you said, just one view or one, you know, ideology that actually is the truth that we're giving out there. However, is that what you said? There is, with organisation, there is going to be something about sacrifice. And organisations, not just organisations like Wembley Stadium, but also organisations like churches. They're going to be sacrifice in that context, because as we know, Israel is a massive conversation within all churches, not just in, you know, just a few churches, but all churches. And I mean, on that note, Ray, what is your thoughts on that?
I mean, my issue is I struggle because the directives comes not from the stakeholders, it comes from the government. The lighting of the arch must be passed by the Minister of Sport.
Oh, really? For
the government, yes. Because of the political ramifications. It cannot be just a local discussion. Set of people. Right. Okay. And now, remember, that it's the national stadium where England play. Yep. So this becomes more of a political now agenda. Yep. So Ukraine, the president said with terrorist attacks in Turkey and France, yep. And they're lighting up the arch in those colors. Hamas is seen as a terrorist group, and Richie Sunak clearly stated that we are in support of Israel. These are terrorists, same as he did with Turkey and other places. So the rhetoric is exactly the same. Bernstein, who is a Jew, who was the head of the FA, okay? He's no longer head of FA, was the first one to come out and ask, why didn't they do this? Okay, and he asked that to the government because it goes out of the stakeholders' hands and it goes now into the government arena. Right. And Bernstein is mad because when he was in the FA, he had to follow directives from the government to get all this stuff done. Now he's saying, you're saying the FA don't want to do it, so it's up to the FA. No, no. You've made a stand, you've even flew to Israel. That means we know whose side you're on. Yeah. So light the arch. Yeah, exactly. Light the arch. Yeah, but then, so it's not about whether the Palestinians are starving. It's not about, no. They never, back in the day, that was never a discussion. What this was about was who we support, because it's supporters, who we support. And so the arch now becomes a supporters thing. Most people in this country are behind the government and behind Israel.
I don't know if that's true.
And let me tell you why.
Because have you seen the walks and the thing out in central London?
Yeah, let me tell you why. I was going to say, nationalism runs this country. That's what Brexit was run on, and that's why the Conservatives are in the mess they're in. Okay, because the nationalist vote is now shifting. Okay, and the nationalist vote voted to leave Europe. They voted against the immigrations. They voted to put. They couldn't put the people in those barges if it wasn't for the nationalist people. Okay, and that's the move in this country. Outside of London, you've got a nationalist vote that gave Boris Johnson a landslide victory, so he could make decisions that did not include people like me.
But Ray, it wasn't just London. There was Manchester, Ireland, all the different parts. I mean, it wasn't broadcast.
No.
But there was the walks and the people were really out there.
But what I'm saying is, I'm telling you now, this country will never be against Israel, because the reason we're in the mess was Winston Churchill took the vote to make Israel the priority over Palestine. He took that vote. This parliament passed it. Okay? So they can't go against it. Light the arch. Light the arch. Don't get me wrong, I'm not for either side because it's not my war. But light the arch. And that's what I'm saying. If refugees come here now, they need to give them the same money that they gave to the Ukrainians. Light the arch.
I was going to say, in response to what Ray said, I don't think necessarily it's about being pro-Israel, it's about being pro-Jewish. Because Hamas is being, they're not the same thing. Yeah. But Hamas is seen as a terrorist organization. It's recognized by the UK, the US, and other governments across the road, right? So they're a terrorist organization. So, in terms of it's the same thing. Terrorist attacks in Turkey and in France, right? Terrorist attacks. We stand with the French people. We stand with the Turkish people. Terrorist attacks in Jewish people. We stand with the Jewish people. No, we can't do that. Why? We're talking about humanity, like you said. Jewish people are being slaughtered by a terrorist organization. Stand with them. No, we can't do that. Why?
No, but the thing is, it's not about just Jewish people being slaughtered, but also we've got Palestinians that are getting slaughtered, and also it's a collective punishment, that issue that people are talking about. The international law is that if a terrorist group does something, you can't just go and go and deal with the children, women and stuff in the community. You've got to go with a terrorist group. That is the international law. So to cut off their electricity, cut off their water for children and women, that is where people draw the line. Say,
do you think therefore that makes the Israeli government? Do you think that makes the Israeli government terrorist organizations? Yeah. Because if you're saying that, then there's almost an implication there that you're saying that the Israeli government, by doing these things, are almost doing their own form of terrorism. Is the Israeli government recognized as a terrorist organization? No. Is Hamas? Yes.
Just because you're recognized by the statesman for being a specific thing doesn't mean that's what you are. And there's a do you know what I'm saying? Just because because you know what? If we was to look at our history, and if we was to look at, for example, the Bible, right? Maybe Jesus could have been seen as a terrorist person, but was he? So we've got to be mindful. And from that point of view, Aaron, I have to put this out to you, and I'm just throwing it out there.
I really disagree with that
But you know what? I have to put it out there because you know what? The state at that time would have said that blankly, that he was a terrorist, and that group of 12 disciples were terrorists. And that's what I'm saying to you, that just because somebody said something, just because the state said something, doesn't mean that it's actually true. So we've got to be really mindful. We've got to be mindful about that.
What do you define a terrorist as? Someone who commits crimes or instills terror in people, violence for political aims. That's what a terrorist is.
But it's more than that. And I tell you why it's more than that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because and I'm being cynical when I say it's more than that. Because the person that bombs, a British person that bombs a place in the UK, which has happened, is not a terrorist. Okay, he's a criminal, but he's not a terrorist. Someone from Palestine that does the same thing is a terrorist. Okay, because the first thing they will ask, is this a terrorist attack? Okay, and they're looking for someone who is going to say Allah, whatever, and then he is a terrorist. All right, so I'm being cynical, but I'm being real in the sense that Hamas was voted in democratically. Okay, which means then they are the leader of a country. They lead the country because they were voted in. It was a close vote, but they were voted in. So they should be respected, okay, as any other government that runs. Now, the difficulty is that prior to being elected, they did do terrorist acts against Israel. So now you have to weigh up, are they still terrorists? Or are they being voted in so they're now legit? I would suggest that they're legit, but they only represent 52% of Palestine. That's what they represent, because the others voted for the other organization that didn't win. Therefore, you cannot beat up on Palestine and saying that they all follow Hamas. Okay, so you can't do that. However, this country has taken a stance. Okay, whether we like it or not, the stance is they're pro-Jewish because of the Holocaust. They're pro-Jewish. All right? If you are pro-Jewish and you're willing to, Ms. Braverman said that anyone waving a Palestinian flag should be arrested. That's what she said.
No, I thought you said that anyone wearing a pro-Hamas flag.
But
I think it was Palestinian.
Because for Palestinians it's a bit different. But
no, she said Palestinian.
I could have sworn she said pro-Hamas.
But either way.
Because they're not the same thing.
No, but either way, you cannot be arrested for waving a flag.
It depends on what the flag is, though.
No, you could be arrested for gun and knife crime, but you don't find them.
Depends on what the flag is. Because you know, like how free speech has certain limits where you can be arrested.
But I'm just saying. The point I'm making is not about the flag.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is we take a stand on certain things, but we don't take a stand on something else. And the something else we don't take a stand with is if we are with the Jews, then as a nation, whether or not 60% disagree, until this parliament is changed over next year, we are with the Jews. And they should put that thing over because that's what they did, and then pay every refugee £300 like they did for Ukraine and follow the precedents that they have set.
Okay, so on that note, guys, I'm going to move on to my subject matter. So my subject matter today is, I read that an airline, Amsterdam country, is looking to create, well, they've got an airline and they want to create a child-free zone.
Yes.
Section.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. 100%. Yep.
I'm with Aaron.
Yep. Argument done. Yes. I don't want to hear your little demon spawn child running around the place and making. No, I'm sorry. No, demon spawn. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I rebuke you.
They may have some issues with flying and staying in one place for 8 hours.
I can't take it. Look, I don't think tranquility and peace and quiet should be reserved for first class, you know.
Right, you think it should be, so you definitely...
No, I mean, like, because the thing is, yeah, with adults, yeah, if you're loud and rowdy and that, yeah, there's a consequence.
Yeah.
If you're loud and something like that, and you get drunk, you start to assault people, planes will land at different destinations early and have you arrested and then shipped back to where you came from.
Yeah.
But with children, there's not really an escape from it. And if you don't have noise-cancelling headphones, you're finished.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, no, I'm sorry.
I was with you until you alluded to arresting children and sending them back.
I'm saying. No. Let me start again. You can arrest adults. You can't do anything about children. Hopefully now you can. But if the children don't behave themselves, I shouldn't have to deal with that. Like, your child is your responsibility. If the child wants to make noise, that should be your issue to a certain extent. We're in a closed cabin. There's probably about a couple hundred people on the plane. I don't want to hear your son or daughter running up and down screaming at the top of their voice because you can't be bothered to discipline the child for whatever reason. It's not my business as to whether the child has special needs or not. That's not my business. I don't care. I don't care at all. Look after your child. Deal with the child, because it's not like you can take the child out of the plane. We have to listen to it. We have to deal with it.
You know.
No, the noise and the situation.
Yeah,
not the child.
okay.
We have to deal with the situation, and I don't want to. So no.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so
Nah.
I might have just changed my mind because that was harsh.
I don't care, man. I don't care.
Okay, so I do think that it can be, it is really annoying and frustrating if you've got a long haul flight and there's a kid that's not going to settle. Now, I understand that it may not be that easy to settle a child in that situation, right? Because they're in, they're in a different situation. They're on a plane, right? And they have to sit there for the duration, and sometimes they don't understand the destination. Like, if you sit here and be quiet and whatever, then we'll get to Disney World or whatever, right? But so I understand from a parent's point of view, but you have to kind of prepare the child. So you have to have all the stuff that they like and they want and all this kind of stuff, and snacks or whatever. Not that I agree with giving kids snacks, but so that's on one side. So you have to prepare the child, right? However, child-free plane, yes, please. And I will probably pay more for it as well.
No, I don't. No, that's
no,
why I disagree with you.
But if I'm doing a long haul, right? Particularly if I'm coming back from, say, Barbados, for example, I would want to have peace and quiet. I want to be able to sleep on that plane. I'm not watching no movies. I'm going to sleep.
Yep.
And if I know that it's going to cost me an extra 50 quid to have a child-free plane, I would pay that extra 50 quid. 100 quid, I would pay it.
I agree with you. I agree with you in principle, but I just don't see why. Because when you pay extra, you're implying that there's a certain luxury that comes with that. It's
not necessarily.
It's not a luxury to have peace and quiet.
But the luxury is no children.
That's not a luxury.
So, but you have to, when you go on a train, when you go on a bus, right?
Yeah.
You pay your fare, and that's it. You can't say what you want on your plane, on your bus or your train.
Public transport and transit is not comparable to a long haul flight where there's no escape. I can go to the next carriage on the Northern Line. I can't do that. I can't just jump from one plane to another plane
so
in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I can't do that.
So what would you suggest?
That's great.
I either have, very simple, in my opinion, have like child-free flights, and that's just for adults where no children will be allowed to go on their flights. Or, yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, so Ray, what's your opinion on that?
Listen, I think this is discrimination against children. It's
true.
I think it's known by people whose children are grown or by single parents. Someone who's single person who doesn't have children. Yeah. Because what I do, and as you know, I travel a little bit. I normally have headphones for that purpose.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The noise cancelling ones?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So do I.
Yeah. So I just think that I've solved the issue.
Did it work though?
And it works every time.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it sends me to sleep really nice because I put on my little relaxing music, and I'm gone. And I feel good. And the poor parents, and I know what it's like. We had 3 kids that we were flying around the world with. And I know what it's like. You can bring every toy, every snack in the world. When that plane is about to take off or land, or the turbulence hits and the ears start to work, there isn't much you can do. You're a parent, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you're struggling. So I think that, I would like a plane with nobody on it, no children on it. But I would also like a plane with no fat people on it. But, that's just me.
So people actually said that. There was a debate about that.
Yeah, and because I was on a plane just recently, and I thought that no one was going to take the middle seat, so I got happy. And here comes a man twice my size, and sits there and struggles to get down, to push down the armrest. He struggles, but he's leaning over. And to me, that's more of an issue for me than a child crying any day of the week. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against, and I use the word fat, and I apologize if that's not correctly politically correct. But I'm just saying that in that situation where you got to fly 8 or 9 hours with that person in the middle seat, and you are squashed against a window, it ain't good. No headphones can cure that. So I'm just saying, I think get the headphones, the one that cancel out noise, put it on your ears. Get some AirPods if you want to, that does the same thing, and you're good to go. I think that's solvable.
I went to Jamaica last year, and I was next to a couple that had some children running around, right? And I put my headphones on to ignore them, and I kept getting dirty looks from them for the whole flight. And so I asked someone on the other aisle why they give me dirty looks, and they're like, the reason why is because you put your headphones on when the kids running around up and down. I'm thinking, well, what am I allowed to say or do? I'm not going to confront you, because I'm not a confrontational person in general, but I also don't want to hear your child screaming in the background. So you're telling me that it's wrong for me to drown out the noise in the background. You know how entitled you have to be to almost to say that these are my kids, you have to accept they're going to make noise. Why should I have to accept that? I felt it was really entitled of those parents, in my opinion.
I mean, the thing that you said is all of you, your points are interesting. I think there's definitely ways of resolving noise cancelling, like earphones. I never thought they worked. I haven't tried them, but I've got kids, so I don't know. I kind of when you see other parents, you're like high five, because I understand. But one of the things that I thought that people might think about is booking it, like in the night, so that the child can actually in their system. So they go sleep. So when they know what time they go to bed, you try and book the times of your flight at the time that the child normally would sleep. I don't know if someone's tried that, and Eugene is like,
no, just because I know I've been on overnight flights where they make noise because they can't settle, because they're in a different place. They're not lying down in their cot, So, but I'm just here thinking, well, what would those flights be like that are full of parents and children? That would be an absolute nightmare. They'd have to change. But I think if they make a more of a playground, right? So it's kind of more fun, bright colours.
What do you mean on the plane?
On the plane. No, So okay. So it's more child. So the plane itself is more child friendly. Then you have little cots and stuff, and you put the seatbelt in on them when they're in the cot. Stuff like that. So bright colours. So then, because I'm thinking it would be awful if that's the only scheduled flight that you can take, and it's a child-friendly flight, and you have to kind of make it more friendly, make it more child-friendly. That actual plane, more parents would want to go on there because the child's going to have more fun. But I'm like, I agree. You do your own thing, but I don't know whether it would actually work, just because. The scheduling, it's like how many child-free flights are there going to be?
I don't think. I was going to say, sorry to go off. I'm going to say, in addition to that, I agree with what you're saying in principle, but I think that's a bit of entitlement on behalf of the parents, where I don't feel like an airline should have to cater to kids to make them to be quiet. That's the parents' job. It's not the airline's responsibility to make your kids be quiet. That's the parents' job. Deal with your child.
I think it's everyone's job to help that parent. Because I know what it's like. If someone can can come and say hi to the kid and get the kid playing. Like one guy the other day, the mom was just totally knocked out, tired. So he walking the kid up and down the aisle, you know, for the mom to get a little siesta during this thing. I don't see that. I think that's a village thing. I think it's great.
Yeah, you know? But then that's the thing. That's the thing. Now, you can't even. I mean, I love kids. They love me, but now I found myself stopping myself before I go and, do you know what I mean? And even, you know, touch a child, are you okay, whatever. We see a kid running up and down, she's walking on her own in Westfields, Stratford. And I was like, oh my days, I can't see anyone. So we're just following her, right? Back in the day, I'd have gone up to her, are you okay, sweetie? Where's your mom? You know what I mean? But just following her, making sure that nobody, you know, does anything. Eventually, I think two girls, it was a little black girl, two black ladies came up and spoke to her. And then the dad casually walked up with two other kids and was like, oh, okay, you're like, there she is. The girls cussed at the dad. And I was like, and a bit later on I saw the mum come and I wanted to go over and say, you know what he did? He lost your child. But I didn't. But this is what I'm saying, it's like, it's not that easy to do that these days. But there needs to be, I think, a child-friendly thing. I think it's a good idea, some bouncy castles or whatever on there. And if parents want to pay for that, because maybe there's creches and whatever, fine. I think child-free flights as well, I think people would pay for that. But you also have to have the normal regular scheduled flights, because they may not be full of kids. Sometimes it is just one, and then obviously you're not going to hear somebody that's in another cabin. So I like it. I think give it a go.
Give it a go?
Yeah.
Well, that's on that discussion, guys. That was a lovely conversation there. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being on the IN2G show. Yes, hi, we've had another lovely conversation. I'm really excited to have you here again, and I'm looking forward to it. If you have any comments, anything that you want to talk about in any of the discussions and things that we've discussed today, do not forget to write your comments, like, subscribe, everything that you need to do. And as always, you know, with IN2G, it's a better life.